Hello, and welcome to the inaugural OIS Myopia Innovation Showcase. My name is Joe Rappon, and I'm honored to be your host for today's program. My journey with myopia started when I was just 11 years old. My sixth grade teacher noticed that I was squinting to see the board, and so my parents scheduled me for my first eye exam. And while I don't really recall that eye exam, I do clearly remember to this day walking out in the parking lot after receiving my first pair of glasses and seeing leaves on a tree from a distance for what appeared to be the first time in my life. And this was such a powerful experience for me that I decided in that parking lot that I wanted to become an eye doctor and help other children see clearly. I then met my wife in optometry school, and so myopia has quite literally shaped the course of my life. So it's a little bit ironic that I'm now part of this quickly growing industry that's trying to get the myopia problem under control. The history of myopia actually started way back in 350 BC when Aristotle first described the concept of myopia. It then took over 1,500 years for the concave lens to be invented, likely in Italy or Germany, sometime between the 13th century and about 1450 AD. In his book entitled On the Anomalies of Accommodation and Refraction, Frans Donders, a Dutch ophthalmologist, was the first to really sort out myopia from hyperopia, astigmatism, and presbyopia. He clearly explains that the myopic eye was too long relative to the unaccommodated optics. He found that myopia was much more common in his private practice than in his indigent hospital, leading to the idea that the environment had something to do with myopia. He also observed that the myopic eye was not a healthy eye. Even though over 150 years have passed since the time that Donders published this book, most children around the world still only have their myopia corrected with glasses or contact lenses, which allows them to see clearly but does not help to reduce myopia progression. In 2016, the late Brian Holden and colleagues published a landmark paper on the global prevalence of myopia. The 50-year graph presented here from the Holden paper shows how quickly the myopia problem was predicted to accelerate. While GWAS studies have now found a couple of hundred genes or more that seem to be involved with myopia, we know that genetics alone could not create a change this rapidly. So it was really no coincidence that the second industrial revolution was underway around the time that Donders made his discoveries about myopia. The lifestyle changes during that time that took human beings from fields to factories dramatically increased the prevalence of myopia. And still today, the prevalence of myopia continues to climb, perhaps with COVID-related changes making the situation even worse than previously predicted. The work by Holden predicted that nearly 1 out of every 2 people on Earth will be myopic by 2050. And perhaps even more concerning was their prediction that nearly 1 billion people will be highly myopic. There's even more evidence today than ever before that Donders was also correct that the myopic eye is not a healthy eye. The ocular elongation and tissue stretching that occur with myopia do not only put the eye at risk for developing posterior staphylomas, as Donders observed, but also increases the risk for other potentially blinding consequences such as glaucoma, retinal detachment, and myopic maculopathy. And while highly myopic eyes are the most at risk, even low levels of myopia increases the risk of these diseases. So while the eye care industry has been eager for many years to reduce myopia progression, we didn't really understand what was driving it well enough. Our lack of understanding led to some approaches that just really didn't pan out, including undercorrection of myopia, usage of bifocal or progressive addition lenses, and standard or alignment fit rigid gas permeable contact lenses. But the reason why we're here today is because there is finally light at the end of this tunnel. In September of 2016, the FDA held a public workshop to discuss the increasing prevalence of myopia and to suggest attributes of clinical trial designs for contact lenses or other medical devices to control the progression of myopia. Then, in November of 2019, the FDA approved the very first product in the United States to help slow the progression of myopia. And this landmark achievement has really helped usher in a new era for myopia management. As you will hear today during the company showcases and during the industry panel, now that we have a better understanding of myopia, there are multiple products in development. We are all very hopeful to see other FDA approvals and clearances soon, but there are other challenges that we face, such as how do we help parents be more aware about the ocular health risks associated with myopia? We have much to do to make these new products the standard of care for myopia management, not just from the practitioner education standpoint, but also from a public health and affordability perspective. The good news on that front is that some governments are truly keyed in on this problem. For example, in China, where over 90% of teenagers are already myopic, President Xi Jinping publicly stated in 2018 his concerns about the societal consequences of myopia. Since then, the Chinese government has attempted to reduce online video game usage, has set standards on school supplies, and has even required provincial level governments to reduce the proportion of myopic children by 0.5% per year. Our professional organizations are also taking note of this significant issue. Late last year, the American Academy of Ophthalmology announced that it formed a task force on myopia composed of myopia experts from around the world, whose objective is to develop an action plan to delay the onset of myopia and to help slow its progression. And just a couple of weeks ago, the World Council of Optometry passed a resolution that advises all optometrists to incorporate myopia management as the standard of care within their practices and to shift from simply correcting vision to actively managing the problem, including getting more involved with the public education that is required here. These are just a couple of examples, as there are several other exciting developments like this occurring, often through sponsorship by some of the companies included in our program today. So I'm sure that we'll hear more about these critical initiatives later. We really have a great program lined up for you today. First, Matt Erdning, who is a Global Myopia Awareness Coalition board member, will provide an overview of the myopia market. Next, you will hear from 8 companies who are developing cutting-edge technologies during the rapid-fire company showcase presentations. In the following section, I will speak with 5 prominent clinicians who treat myopia patients day in and out, so that we can learn from their perspective about myopia management. Dwight Ackerman will then moderate an industry panel with 6 of the top eye care companies involved in myopia today. And this really promises to be a great day of learning for all of us. It's now my pleasure to introduce Matt Erdning, who is the co-founder and CEO of Treehouse Eyes. Matt is a passionate leader, an entrepreneur, and a veteran of the eye care industry. He helped create the Myopia Awareness Coalition after firsthand witnessing the need to increase the public's awareness about myopia and recognizing that this was going to take the collective and the collaborative efforts of this entire industry. Please welcome Matt.